Welcome back to part 2 with ellipses. We're going to do some examples now. Before we get started, I did want to point out just the basic equation for a circle. And I mentioned in the first video that that is when A equals B, so the length to the vertices, major and minor axes, equals the radius. Then you have this circle equation. So if you notice, we're not dividing by A squared and B squared. And this equals r squared. It will not equal 1 unless your radius is 1. But it equals the radius squared, and that's when A and B are the same, when you see that in your equations. Most of your equations will look like example 1 right here. This says that you have x squared plus 4x plus 4y squared, plus 4x minus 40y plus 103. Now your first goal in trying to obtain an equation is just to identify the parts you have. You see you've got x squared and you have an x, and you've got a y squared and you've got a y. So we have to start grouping those together. We're going to have to do some major completing the square. So we have to identify the parts. The first thing I'm going to do is get this x squared and the 4x together. So I have x squared plus 4x. And I'm going to leave a space there because I know I need to add something else to complete the square. I then have a positive 4y squared, and I have minus 40y. I'm going to leave a space because I'll need to add something there to complete the square. And I'm going to move that 103 to the other side. So that's going to be negative 103. Now this is a good completing the square exercise. Right here, remember I want x plus or minus something squared. So I'm going to take half of that value and square it. Half of 4 is 2, squared is 4. So I need to add 4 to this right here. When I add 4, kind of hard to see, that will give me x plus 2 squared. Okay? I'm going to get another red pen. Now if you notice I've got 4y squared here. I want this just to be y squared. So I need to factor out a 4, and it factors out nicely out of the terms that I have. So if I factor out a 4, I then have y squared minus 10y. And what value would I need there to complete this square? So half of 10 is 5, squared is 25. So I need a 25. Then when I have this as written as a square, I'm going to have 4 times y minus 5 squared, right? And over here, I still have my x plus 2 squared. Now we need to figure out what's happening on the other side, because it's not just 103 anymore, right? Here, we added 4 to make this work. So I need to add 4 over here to balance the equation. Here, I didn't just add 25, I added 100. So I need to add 100 on the right side as well. Then I can get this sum. Negative 103 plus 4 plus 100 equals 1. Should come out to a nice number. Now if I did not have a 1 here, if I had a 9, I would have to divide everything by 9 to get a 1 with this equation. But I already have the 1. I also can tell right now from here what the center is. Right? It's our h and k. So the center is at negative 2, 5. And I can tell, well, just a second, let's see. I need to have the values on the bottom. I need to have my a squared and my b squared. So you can leave it this way. That is acceptable. Okay? Or you can write it as x plus 2 squared, and that is over 1. And bring the 4, instead of leaving it in the numerator, you would bring the 4 to the denominator, and you would say divided by 1/4, and you'll need to do this in some of your exercises. This fraction right there is the same thing, right? If I take y minus 5 squared divided by 1/4, it's the same thing as times 4. So I have not changed the value, I've just changed the form. Now I can look at that and I can say, oh look, the larger number is underneath the x, so that I know that my ellipse is more horizontally oriented. I can tell what A is and I know what B is, right? A is 1, and B would be the square root, which would be, B would be 1/2. Now if I wanted to sketch this, you would sketch this on, if I know that my center is here at -2, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I know that my A is 1, I'm horizontally based, so I'm coming over here to 1, I'm coming over here to 1, and then my B is 1/2, I'm going up a little bit, down a little, half a distance, okay? I have this type of oval right here. Okay, and there's my center. It looks like an eyeball. Let's look at this next example. Now I'm going to give you a little bit more information, a little different kind of information. This time I'm going to tell you that the foci are at 19,3 and -7,3. The length of the major axis is 30. So let's figure out what we know. If we know that the major axis is 30, then right away I can tell you that A is half of that. So A is 15. If I know that the foci are at 19 and 3 and -7 and 3, that means that I'm on the same horizontal 3 axis, right? So I know that my ellipse is horizontal in nature. I also can find the center. Right? If I find the distance between 19 and -7, so 19 minus a -7, that's going to give me 26. I need to divide that by 2, so I get 13. So if I come in 13 from both of those points, then I will get the center. Right? If I come in 13, if I'm over at -7,3 and I come in 13, where am I? I'm at 6, right? So -7 plus 13 gets me at 6. Or if I'm at 19 and I have to come back 13, I'm going to be at 6. So I know that my center is at 6, 3. And what did we determine the 6? What do you think that is if that goes to the foci? That's your C. So I now have my center, I have C, and I have A. You can then write the equation. Let's write in what we know so far. So we know that we have x minus the h, which would be 6. And that's over, we'll figure that out in a minute. Let's do the y. So I have y, and then that would be the 3 minus the 3 equals 1. I know that A is 15, and I know that it is horizontal in nature. That means it's on the x. That means I'm going to put the 15 squared under the x. So this is going to be 15 squared. Then I need to figure this part out. Well, that's the only part I'm missing. But I already, the b squared. But I already have A and C, and this is what I talked about, that you can find the third piece, right? So if we had C squared equals A squared minus B squared, remember? So this would be C is, you let me put 6. C is not 6. I went in 13. 6 is where the center is. Aha! C is not 6. What is C? C is 13. That can't be right. C is 13. That's how far I came in from the center and I went out to the foci each time. So that would be 13 squared equals A squared, which is 15 squared, minus B squared. So if I take the 169, if I do that subtraction, I'm going to get 56 is equal to B squared. I don't need to find B, I just need B squared, remember, because that's what goes in my equation. So I'm just going to bring that over here and say that's 56. So it's already B squared. That is my answer. It says find the equation for the following. Okay. You found A, you found C, and then you were able to determine B and the center. Let's look at example 3. Example 3 gives you an equation and says find the center A, B, and C. The equation is x minus 4 quantity squared divided by 19 plus quantity of y plus 7 squared over 17 equals 1. Okay, let's write the center down. Center would be your h and your k. So that's going to be at 4, negative 7. My A, this is the larger number. The 19 is the larger number. But remember, that's A squared. So A is going to be the square root of 19. And B would be the square root of 17. I don't know what C is yet. But you can figure it out. Because you have C squared equals A squared minus B squared. So I don't know C squared. And I'm going to have just 19 minus 17. So C squared equals 2. C must be the square root of 2. Square root of 2, which is about 1.41 if you had to graph it and come out. Now let's also find the eccentricity. Let's see how much like an oval this is. So remember, the eccentricity was C over A. Well, that would be the square root of 2 over the square root of 19, and that, you pull out your calculator for that, and that would be 0.32. So it's not that much like an oval. You could probably tell, but it's not that much. It's not easily identifiable. Now we have one more equation that we are going to work on trying to rearrange and get into standard form here. And we are going to have to do the grouping again and completing the square. So let's look at how we need to group. We've got a 4x squared, we've got a 24x, and we've got a couple y's here. I also noticed that all of the coefficients are divisible by 4. So I think what I'm going to do is make my life easy, and I'm going to divide the whole thing by 4. Now I may not finish this problem before the video runs out, so we may have to finish this one in class. So it's going to be x squared. I'm going to bring this x over, so that's going to be a minus 6x. I'm going to leave a space. I have a positive y squared. Remember, I'm dividing by 4. This will give me 8y. I'm going to leave a space, and I'm going to kick that 36 to the other side, but it's not 36, right? It's 9, so I've got negative 9. And now I need to figure out what to do to complete the square. I think this is a good place to stop. We will stop here, and please complete the problem, and then we'll check your work when you get to class. Thank you.